another episode. Sunny outside, a summer episode today of PR Real Talk. And our guest is not a stranger. If you haven't caught up previously, the links will be shared. And it's Brian Christopher Martin. So how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Since the last episodes, I've had some excitement. I guess I had some overexcited fans or something, and developed a lot of followers on LinkedIn. But unfortunately, I had quite a few hack attempts on my online accounts, and just not very good publicity, but overall very good response. And it seems like it's resonating well. The general message of unity, as well as just everything in general. Yeah, very, very good.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it. Because last time we talked about obviously the unity where you're trying to bring everybody, to level up. You can do it just because you think, you don't have the resources. You definitely have enough resources for you to do something. And from your military background, bringing that to becoming a CEO, and how you run your company. So if you just want to give a brief summary, I know I've said a few, but if there's any bits that I haven't touched on, if you just want to, for those that haven't watched it yet, which they will, yes, the floor is all yours.
Okay, well, for those that have not tuned in before, I'm Brian Christopher Murphy. I'm the CEO and Director of Construction Brokers, as well as Chairman of the Board for Quilt Advisory Group and Quilt Holdings. For those that don't know, a holding company is essentially a company that owns other companies. And then the advisory group is a global network of advisors, primarily business to business, business to government. And mainly what we do is supply chain logistics and management, as well as just kind of crisis response. With so many of the things happening in the world today, volcanoes that have not erupted in centuries, and floods, and just general disasters, it's like we can provide a lot of logistical support. I had said previously, you let me know what you need, where you need it, and when, and I can make it happen. But one of the things I got into a great deal was the difference because I had said, I'm not a boss, I'm a leader. I lead by example. And the key difference I see is the difference between being a leader and a boss is empathy versus authority. I try to embody the very expectations of what I expect in others. I try to be the person I expect others to be, to show them the way. As I had said, it's like if managers and supervisors are the bosses. They're the ones that see to the day-to-day operations. And my job primarily is to lead, pay attention to what's happening inside the company, but primarily outside the company, watching market trends, paying attention to what you, the consumer, are buying. Because people think, well, we're just a bunch of greedy fat cats up here raking in the profits. No, the profits stay in the company so we can pay the benefits. I'm taking care of you. I'm not keeping all this money to myself, because people that have been here for years and say they will never work anywhere else because they know that they are taken care of here. It's not my company, it's our company. This is our livelihoods. I want your children and grandchildren to be working here long after I'm gone. As I had said, I founded the company in 2010, but I hope we're still around in 2235 or something, because when I'm gone, I won't be around forever. To know that the company will still be here providing livelihoods today, tomorrow, and into the future. Because again, it's our company. Employees are customers as well. It's a two-way interaction. And so I try to create an environment where you feel appreciated, where you're compensated well, a place you can be proud to work and know that you are looked after. My job is to take care of you as you take care of others, and again, that's unity. You and I together as one, creating synergy so as to make the world a better place.
Awesome.
So as I say,
sorry, I just wanted
using
to
unity to create synergy with integrity.
I just kind of wanted to go into that bit where we talk about unity, and it's something that we all aspire, we all hope and dream for. But it's not always the case, because there's always, as they say, there's a bad egg there, or people just disagree because people have different opinions. So I know you have managers to deal with things, but how about if it's them? At some point, it gets to you to make that decision where it can't be a case of unity anymore. You need to go, okay, well, that is that, you need to resolve that crisis. How do you go through that?
In terms of crisis management, you mean?
Yeah, well, a crisis, not necessarily even the ones to do with the company, where it's to do with what you provide as in the service. It's a crisis within your company, with all these managers, with all these people that have been put in place to be the bosses. So at some point, you have to take over that boss position, because overall you are the CEO.
Because of course, if somebody leaves the company, and one of my primary rules is everyone must have a second. Everyone must have someone else who can step in and take over for them, including me. Because I've said before, if you cannot step away from the company and let it run for a bit, well, then you don't own a company, you own a job. So to see to it that I own a company, a company, not a job, I have a second, somebody else who can step in. A couple of people, actually. One person cannot manage an operation this size. And I'm here to respond. I get paid primarily to think, to be able to respond very quickly to what's happening. And so really to do that, it takes teamwork, so really it's a team function. It's not entirely on my shoulders, so I know how to delegate. I am smart enough to know that I am not always the smartest. So I know how to find the people who are better at it than I am, and understanding those things that I am better at, and identifying talent and utilizing it, because we're all here for a reason. And that reason being, typically, to provide our families with a livelihood. I was speaking to a group of high school and college students, and a high schooler asked me, what is the worst part of your job? And I said, it's having to terminate people or let them go, because I do everything I possibly can to avoid that. I do not like letting people go. Firing and sacking, I try to keep out of the company's vocabulary, because I never want to put someone in the position of having to come home to their families and say, I do not have a job, but what are we going to do? Because the economies of the world are in trouble right now. And so that's a lot of what I'm doing, is trying to be the shield against that storm. As I had said, it's like, there is an I in team, but I am the eye in the storm. That is the shield that keeps those troubles away, so that you don't have to deal with that uncertainty. You can be certain you will have a job for as long as I have anything to say about it. I am here to serve. My primary job is service. And I began in the military at 19. From the battlefield to the boardroom, I have never, ever wavered in my commitment to excellence and service to my country and to the people that make it what it is, to make it, united. You could say to keep the united in states, to keep the united in kingdom. you know, to bring that unity that binds us all together, to embody the very qualities that we have, and do my best not to demonstrate its shortcomings.
Mm. Mm.
And
So
that is something I'm quite proud of. So,
will that be kind of your ultimate goal, is just to please people? So it's not, we know it's not just about money. You know, you want to make sure you create a good service, a great work environment. Is that the overall goal of the company? Obviously, there's sometimes where you have to, or well, maybe not necessarily even you, maybe some of your delegates have to make difficult decisions. Do you step in, or do you just leave them to, you know, that's what you hired them
I
for?
am always involved when if there's a crisis situation, you can believe I will be there. I'm not delegating that to somebody else. I cannot, in many countries, by law, delegate that. I have to make that decision because we're, like I say, we're very heavily regulated in the United States. And there's just, I have to keep the ship upright. We cannot run aground because far too people's livelihoods rely on it. You know, and like I say, I never want anyone to be in a position of losing their jobs, because most of us, we're not here to get rich. Most people just simply want to make enough money to provide for their families. And that is the primary thing I look to do. You know, as I always say, rich is about having a lot. Wealthy is about wanting for little. And I'm not concerned. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not in it for the money. You know, I've made my money, and I now want to show other people how to do the same. And so really today I wanted to touch on retirement planning, because I think our largest population segments through much of the world is, well, here we call it the boomer generation, the post-World War II generation. So where most of us are either retired or on our way to retirement. So I kind of wanted to, I touched that in episode 2. So, you know, really, I would tell people go back and rewatch or re-listen to that episode, because it's primarily about, for now, making enough money passively, which could be through investments, through rental properties. I can't speak to that too much because I know we're a global audience. So it differs by, you know, state to state, province to province, country to country. So, like I say, you have to put your team together. So your investment team will be a lender, an accountant, a lawyer, a solicitor, as they say in other countries. Start there, because they will be the people who are credentialed professionals that can help you fill in the gaps where you may not know. And they were going to be the ones that will really propel you forward to the life of your dreams. It's really kind of up to me to lead and show the way.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on, so you said about retirement plan. So as somebody who is working, what are the ways? So you can either obviously keep your saving, keep all your money in the bank, or keep it somewhere to sit there, or you can put it somewhere and you're not quite sure, but you're investing into something. Which route do you think is best?
Well, my first advice is do not keep your money in the bank, because right now I don't know too much what's happening in other countries, but here the interest rates are not even paying 1%, and they say our inflation rate is at 2.9. You know, with COVID, it's like the numbers tend to be up and down. But let's say, you know, 2.9 is a reference point, but interest from the banks are like 1.5%. So if your money's in the bank, you're actually losing money. So I suggest placing it in a safer investment that does not require a great deal of knowledge, but they're investment advisors. So let's say you may only have a few thousand in savings, or maybe you have, you know, you've been saving your whole life, so you have quite a bit to invest. Your local banker can offer you investment options where the bank or a trust manager will manage it. And they can help advise you. That's one of the things we do too, is investments advising. But there's so many locally available to you, typically through your local bank, wherever you keep your money. And they may already have their own advisors, because, you know, we all hope to retire one day. You know, some earlier, some later, but at some point, as I've said before, you're going to have to retire, because you're either not going to want to continue to work, or you're not going to be able to work. For me, I retired young at 45. I mainly did that through real estate investing, to where you're generating passive income, which is income generated by not working, such as a pension, or you've invested in bonds, or what we call T-bills, treasury bills. Government investments are typically good and safe. Here in the USA, our Social Security Trust Fund is what helps a lot of people. That's their retirement, and that is something you pay into throughout your working years. They take a little bit out of each paycheck, and it goes into that fund. So by the time you're ready to retire, the money's already there. And then, of course, anything you saved, if you have a pension from a company, I know in different countries, they still have pension plans. Here, we went to a program called 401k, because typically with most companies, a pension plan, you have to stay with the company to get that. With a 401k, it goes with you. If you leave one company and go to another, that goes with you. You know, so it gives you the flexibility of changing employers if you want to, or let's say that company does not survive and they go under. Well, your pension doesn't go with it, because we have seen that happen here in the USA. Two major companies, MCI WorldCom, which was a global company, and Enron, which was an energy company, they folded, and their pension plans went with it. So people's retirement dreams also went with that. And that to me is a tragedy, that you worked most of your life to end up with nothing. But the nice thing today, because the internet has revolutionized so much, there's still opportunities out there to recover. And as I've said with the internet, I mean, the world is literally at your fingertips. So it's just truly amazing. As I said, most of my adult life was pre-internet. So I remember before, and then today, and then when it began, the internet was nothing like it is today. And it's just, it keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
and
just to
it's going to
get on
more.
that point of the internet itself, that people, yeah, okay, there's the information in there to go and search for different things, investment opportunities, how to save your money, where to invest in. But most of this information, there's a lot more false information than true information, I would say. So for somebody like you, how do you kind of sift through all of that to make sure, oh, this is genuine and it's worth putting my money in?
Well, I have my own team of advisors, because I'm smart enough to know that I am not always the smartest. I look for the people who are better at doing what they do. Each of us is a credentialed professional in our own rights, regardless of what we do. So if you're needing investment advice, well, find someone who does that for a living. And then that way you can focus on doing what you would do best. So for those, looking for investment advice, because, some have a lot of experience with things as I do, others do not. I'm very good when it comes to business, to investing, but there are many areas in which I fall short. I don't know that much about like taxes. We are taxed to death here. And for that, I rely on an accountant. I don't know everything about law. The laws are constantly changing. The tax codes are constantly changing. And that's what I rely on my team behind me, not just within the company, but without, because again, the livelihoods are a great many people are on my shoulders. And as they say, heavy hangs the head that wears the crown. And yes, it gets very heavy, but I'm not carrying it alone. We are together, united as one. Again, putting the united in unity.
Mm. So I
Does that
just
answer
want
your
to
question? They're a little vague.
yeah, I want to touch back on, if you've saved some money, maybe it's not that much money, you want to invest, but to get like an investment person that obviously takes some money, and then to make sure it's the right person. And you said about obviously getting lawyers, accountants, the real, like the kind of baseline for any business. But for somebody who is starting off, who can afford to do all of that, are there any sort of ways to make sure you're still in check? So you don't just end up putting your money into something and that will just crash.
No, I mean you're wherever you're keeping your money now. If it's in the bank, well, your bank they have a great many investment products they can offer to the average consumer. If you're someone even with you just have what's in your account, maybe it's enough for lunch next week. Your banker can advise you investment wise because there are actually a great many investments you can get into that don't require any money up front. As I had said before, using just $100, I was, and good credit, obviously, I was able to buy an asset that was appraised at 121,000 that I had bought for a purchase price of 55,000, but I only had 100 to start with.
Mm.
Two good books I recommend are Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and then I also recommend Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Those two books alone will give you a wealth of knowledge that will really help set you up, even if all you have is a pound or a penny in the bank, or a dollar and a pence, or whatever your local currency is. You can literally start with almost nothing, and with the power of the internet to leverage you, the sky's the limit. And it's not like it was when we were children and things took forever. It can be done pretty quickly nowadays. And again, it's like the internet has brought us all together.
Mm. Mm.
So it gives us a much broader reach. So there's just so many options out there that don't require a lot of money, don't require credit, don't require high credit scores. Uh, that's just how amazingly things have changed. So to speak to that, because as I said, most of my adult life was pre-internet. So just trying to keep up with the changes that just keep coming and coming and coming, and realize we live in such an abundant world compared to how it used to be. And this is why I have such a positive outlook in the face of uncertainty, because I've been around 6 decades is how long I've been alive. Obviously 20 years that was growing up, but I have 4 decades of experience, and I began in the military at 19. So I've got 4 decades in the trenches, and I carried high levels of responsibility at a very young age. The military made that happen. So really, it's about reaching out to people locally around you, starting with your local bank, and they can be a great springboard to moving forward. Because so many people they don't realize, I won't say it's easy, as they say, easier said than done, but done is doable. And it's not as difficult as so many people seem to think. And like the example I gave before of, finding a good parking spot, wanting to park in the front. Well, do you look in the front row first, or do you just kind of go farther back? It's like, well, if you don't look in the front row, of course you're not going to find a front row. And it's kind of crazy. People spend 20 minutes trying to get as close to the door as possible so they can go inside and walk several kilometers. But then you're trying to save time on parking. That's a matter of priorities, Park and get inside as quick as you can. Then you can spend more time actually shopping and finding the deals. And so it works the same way in the investment arena, the retirement arena. try to spend the bulk of your time being productive rather than looking for a place to park. It's like my ex-wife would say, oh, you just have the most amazing parking karma. How do you do that? It's like, well, because I always look in the front row first rather than resorting to the back. And of course, once you're in the store, well, the best bargains can sometimes be right in the front, or they might be in the back. But again, you have to get out there and look. And of course, with the internet, you can do it from home now. You don't actually have to physically go anywhere. And just like, in a sense, I'm right there in Kent, England with you, despite the fact that I'm in the United States. And so it really does. That was the point of the internet, was really more about unity, bringing us not just together as individual nations, but the entire world. And, and clearly, as we can see right here, you're in England, I'm in the USA, but we can talk to each other. And social media really makes that possible as well.
No, absolutely.
Does that answer the question, or did I get a little long-winded?
No, it's good.
I've just got so much knowledge in my head after 4 or 6 decades. It's just kind of like, where do I begin to sift?
No, this is it. And that's
let me tell you.
That's why we had to bring in
the haystack. Use a magnet, because there's nothing that says that the needle in the haystack isn't magnetic. That's how you find a needle in a haystack. Well, assume that it's magnetic metal and use a magnet, you'll find it pretty quick.
Well, that's thinking outside the box for me.
Kind of the difference in the way we think, as I say. Kidneys. Kidneys.
So kind of as we wrap it up, we have a few minutes to kind of wrap up. So in your journey so far, compared to where you started, is this it, or do you have a lot more plans? Is there something bigger? What's the big plan for the future while you're there? You're a CEO.
I really feel like, I'm not really too concerned, because as I said before, it's about the journey, not the destination. I don't know when my time's going to come to an end, but one day, my time will come. So in the meantime, I don't just want to get out the message of putting the unity and united, but one day my time will come. So in the meantime, I'm going to put the fun in funeral whenever that may come. Because again, look forward to every day with excitement. Let every bad day simply be a reminder that there are better days coming. There are no mistakes. They're all learning opportunities. You do not compare yourself to others and where they are in their journeys, because you're on your own. Compare yourself to where you want to be. And if you are where you want to be and you feel you're on track, you, my friend, are successful. Do not let other people determine your success. Do not let other people determine your self-worth. You look in that mirror with pride, proud of who you are. Let other people worry about who they are, because anything anybody says is really only a matter of opinion, and opinions are like bombs. Everybody's got one, and most of them don't smell very good. If I don't get beeped out for things like that.
You kind of have so many of these Leo proverbs, being in Africa, that's usually what we're versed on, but you're doing an amazing job. So Brian, it's been an amazing episode again. I think we definitely have to try and structure this so it's more of a series, because there's just so much to talk about.
There really truly is. I mean, the world has a wealth of knowledge. And so something I've learned growing up, my parents taught me, if you want to learn about something, we'll talk to the people who are doing it. And, and just kind of find out what you can from them. Talk to as many as you can. And as the two books I mentioned, because as I say, I am always learning. Most successful people spend a great deal of their time learning. And, you can do that through books. It doesn't necessarily, there are investment books that will tell you. And as I said, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill are classics. Those were books written pre-internet, actually. So they're still bestsellers today because the advice they give is valid regardless of where you are.
No, this is really, really amazing. There was meant to be somebody else joining me on the show because they're very inquisitive about obviously business. They had lots of questions for you. We weren't able to make it happen this time, but hopefully we'll catch up on the next episode.
Absolutely. I'd be only too happy to keep coming back because like I say, my superpower is making you and everyone feel good about yourselves, and you should. You have no reason to hang your head in any kind of shame because no matter what has happened in your life, you are still here today. You are a survivor. You are not a victim. The victims are the ones that did not make it. If you're here today, you're a survivor. You have survived 100% of everything that has ever happened to you. That, my friend, makes you a warrior. And for that, you should be proud. Always.
Well, you know what? I think I think there's no more to add than to say thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure. And catch up again pretty soon. Until then, take care.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I just enjoy talking to you, Pelly, and everybody else. Wonderful. Cheers.
Perfect. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
From Cape to Cairo,
Madagascar to Morocco,
you're traveling on the airwaves of Power Ace Radio.